Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Is everyone still awake? Come on. We can do better than that. Don't worry, I have AI eavesdropping on all of us. We'll get the full report right after the session. All right. Well, I would like to invite our panelists on here, Kala, Ajay, and Ran. Thank you for being here. And thank you, everyone, for staying this long. But I promise we will not try to bore you with a lot of tech stuff, but we'll give you something which might be very useful. And that's the reason why we have this esteemed panelists with us that come from great experiences and share their expertise, but also the business cases. So please take a seat here. Anybody in the room not familiar with the term artificial intelligence or AI? I heard some giggles there. If you're not, please. Room is not fit here. I can tell you, you're not even considered technologists anymore if you don't understand or you cannot say the word artificial intelligence every other line. All right? But how many of you can tell me what GPT stands for? Probably most will struggle. And that's the struggle we are having in this tech evolution landscape where things are changing so fast and furious. It's not about the technologies keeping up pace with the technology and how to really leverage and use it to the best use. Okay? There was a question asked, so I also chair Momentum AI conferences with Reuters, and there was a question asked like in one of the panels, are you afraid and scared of AI taking over? And the answer was very well said. They said, we're not scared of any kind of intelligence taking over. If real intelligence, that'll be better. But given the kind of natural stupidity, which is the exact opposite of artificial intelligence, we'd rather take AI for now. So with that said, we're going to kick this off because I don't want to keep our panelists waiting here. Once again, Kala, Jay, Ran, thank you for making time. I would do injustice if I did introductions on your behalf. So I will let you guys introduce yourself. Please, Kala.
Hi, everyone. My name is Kala Ramachandra. Super excited to be here. I head technology for US Foods. So the food on the table today must have come in from there. And I've had 2.5 decades of being in technology across industries. Been in various spaces, both cybersecurity as well as in the technology space. And I'm excited about everything AI can bring to the table.
Not the food, right?
Partly the food. That keeps the tummies happy. AI keeps the mind happy.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ajay Gupta, and I have 25 years of experience in information technology with around 20 years in cybersecurity. So most recently, I was the global CISO for Cencora, which is the formerly known as AmerisourceBergen, and it is a Fortune 11 or Fortune 10 organization mainly dealing with the pharmaceutical supply chain. And prior to that, I was the chief of cyber operations for Humana, as well as I led the global cyber security program for Pizza Hut International.
Thanks. Hi, I'm Ran from Amdocs. I don't know how many of you know Amdocs. Amdocs is a telco-focused company of 30,000 employees. I manage the managed security services, so we provide security for the largest enterprises on the planet, like AT&T, Verizon, and others for the telco industry. So we're providing security for a critical infrastructure. And as well, across very interesting environment that I will speak about in a few minutes, such as the 5G.
Thank you. And for everyone, this is Lalit Aluwalia. I'm the founder and CEO for Digital X-Force, which is in the cybersecurity space. Been in the space for 25 years. Prior to starting my own businesses, 22 years in the Big Four, Big Six, Accenture, Deloitte, and PwC. So come from that vast cybersecurity experience. But with that said, today's topic is about the AI-powered businesses and innovation at scale, which is happening in every business. But how do you really balance that innovation and technology advancements without compromising the trust of the consumers, of the investors, of the people, because that's equally important. And we have now representation from 3 distinct industries here. We got the consumer product and goods and distribution, we got healthcare, and we got telecom. And I can bet you will find a lot of similarities, what you will learn, and they will like give you a color commentary on like how AI is being used, and I'm pretty sure a lot of you will be able to correlate and maybe take some of these things back with you. So I want to open with the first question here to all of you. How is the AI enabling your industry segments and your businesses in particular?
I'd say that it's driving growth faster than what you would expect it to be at. For example, when we are selling our products to our customers, it helps us recommend other products where we say, hey, look at what other customers are buying, and it's improving sales inorganically without the presence of a salesperson in the room. I think that AI will continue to boost businesses if they adopt it well. And we'll talk about governance later, but I think whether it's moving slow or fast or however, at whatever speed you're adopting it or organizations are adopting it, eventually it will drive growth if they pick it up in the right fashion, because it's replacing a lot of the cognitive behavior, which is also a fear factor.
Ajay?
Yeah, so, I've spent considerable time in healthcare, and if you think about healthcare, there's a 4 P's in healthcare: payer, provider, pharmacy, pharmaceutical, and patient. Ultimately, the outcome is on the patient. So what I will say, the AI is fundamentally reshaping how healthcare is being managed by enabling precision medicine, predictive analytics, and also streamlining the operation between all the different healthcare components, patient, provider, payer, and those areas. Now, there are thousands of use cases that are being looked in from healthcare perspective, and I will say AI is making a lot of impact. And if I have to categorize where exactly it is making and where it is also has helped my organization, is number 1, on the regulatory requirements and compliance. As we all know, healthcare is a very regulated industry, and you have to meet all the different regulatory aspects. Now, just to give an example, if you take a payer, you're talking about the health insurance, and if the health insurer is mainly dealing with Medicare, now there's a mandate from government, from Health and Human Services about CMS 5-star compliance requirement. How do you ensure that those things are being managed? Look at the high quality telemedicine. Telemedicine has been there for some time, but all of a sudden now the AI is even further enabling and making it much more affordable. Look at all the health management. When I talk about the health management, think about the disease management, think about the utilization management, because different aspect of the healthcare is very inefficient. That's where AI is bringing a lot of aspect there. And the last thing I will add here, my company has been mainly on the supply chain, because you're talking about the movement of the drugs. AI is where it is bringing a lot of insight in terms of the fraudulent diversion of the drugs, more specifically the controlled substance and those type of stuff. And that's where we are seeing a lot of value and a lot of use cases happening on that aspect.
Thank you. So I'll take it from the telco side, obviously. And I think we are in a very exciting times, where not only AI is emerging and become much more mature with Gen AI and other technologies that correlate with that, but also 5G. I don't know how many of you had the experience to be part of a company that has adopted such a technology, but it becomes very mature in the last recent years, and we'll see it more and more around us. And the combination of the conversion between AI technology and 5G really enables enterprises, not only telcos, enterprises from all industries basically, almost all industries including governments, to create an amazing business transformation and create and generate new revenues and amazing new business opportunities. For example, I don't know if you know, in Texas we have Brownville, Texas City, which adopted 5G private network to control its traffic light, its IoT devices to provide services to the different residents, and to provide insights and analysis for the government, for the city hall. Companies and manufacturers like Tesla, like BMW, like Ford, automate their manufacturing to become much more competitive and to lower cost. All of this is done as well with AI, which enables more orchestration and prediction and security as well, prediction around security, but also around the performance. But we'll speak maybe later about the security perspective, or you want now, what do you want, the long answer or the short answer?
We'll come to it.
Okay, so I'll speak also which type of threats it also embarrass. So we'll speak now about the opportunities.
Now, thank you first of all for summarizing 3 different industry sectors. Clearly, I think in our previous session we learned AI is here to stay. AI is only going to get bigger and larger. So either you jump on the bandwagon or you'll be left behind. And I don't think so. Even in day-to-day lives, we can be left behind, right? We're using all the Siris, Alexas, all other competencies. Now, if you have kids, check with them how they're writing their school essays, or they're doing other functions. There'll be clear use cases of AI in action. People who like really do a lot of conference calls, remote meetings, I wish there was something called unmute.ai. When you're not on camera and you start talking and then you start apologizing, I'm sorry, I was on mute, talking mute. I wish AI was watching you talking and like unmuted you at that time, but I guess we still have to get there. That being said, of all the experiences, now you are the leaders in your industry segments. You talked about how the industry is adopting AI, right? Can you maybe highlight one use case that you've been personally engaged at the business level that you feel like, wow, this is fascinating. I used to do this. I have such a vast experience, and now AI has really changed the name of the game here. Kala?
I think, analytics and marketing has come a long way, and AI's presence in both those areas. For US Foods, we would spend a lot of time churning data to define what's the shortest path to a customer, where should I deliver from, and right now our AI elements in our tools are already predicting where we should distribute from a market segmentation standpoint, or what products we should store on a higher capacity or lower from an inventory standpoint. And all of this was run by a huge team of analytics people who would, sometimes it's accurate, sometimes it's not, but now it's getting real time. And I think from a company standpoint, it's driving OpEx down. It's driving value up for the customer, for our vendors. It's making it easier for us associates to take the shortest route to pick up product within the distribution center, deliver product to our customers, demand product from our vendors in the right quantities. So at the end of the day, every touch point is making a huge difference.
Ajay, what about the healthcare?
Yeah, so from healthcare perspective, I'll give you an example of 2 use cases. So one is more from the supply chain perspective. And as you know, Cencora is mainly on the pharmaceutical product distribution. There's a massive warehouses. Product comes from the manufacturer, pharmaceutical suppliers, and then it gets sent to healthcare entities like hospital, pharmacies. And the margin is very thin. So you have to run that business very efficiently. That is where the AI is coming to the help. And that's where we are seeing a lot of value in terms of how things are coming, what to order, how to basically place the order in real time to the manufacturer, and then how it needs to be dispensed back to the healthcare entities at the right time. That way you're not holding that and not holding on the cash and then having a quick turnover, so you are basically making profit. Because at the end, Cencora is a $300 billion business, but margin is only 1%. So it has to be run very efficiently. So that's one. The second use case that we recently implemented was on the customer engagement. So when you have a very personalized patient interaction, when you have the encounters with the patient, when patients are coming to the pharmacies and what product, and they are basically being managed in a very, in a way where they feel satisfied, it is going to create more and more business going forward. So that's another area there where we basically saw a lot of value.
Thanks. So again, I'm coming more from the security side, and from the telco and 5G. So one of the use cases that we've recently had, we had to build a private 5G network for food manufacturing. And in order to, again, we need to fight AI with AI. That's our approach. And when it comes to 5G, it's supposed to be a very secured environment, and that's also comes with a secure by design. But it's not enough. We need to orchestrate security. So we need to deploy a lot of AI-based orchestration activities in the network. For example, and of course it's not only our product, but it also combines with other third parties. It's part of a whole holistic solutions. But eventually, I'll give you an example of something that can be done with an AI when it comes to security in a network. When we identify a malicious attack which infect one of the network functions in the core 5G, which is essentially a containerized application, there is no time in a manufacturing facility to bring a forensics investigation, IR. Everything needs to be in a self-healing mode, continuous security, and mitigate as much as possible in real time different threats. So by elevating AI and orchestrating it, that's something that with the combination of 5G and AI, we're capable of doing.
Now, thanks for that. And before I jump into the second half about the trust and the security, because there's always a balance and the guardrails, I'm pretty sure a lot of us are not happy about a lot of DI initiatives and what's happening. And personally, I'm not happy about AI also not having the DI initiatives in place either. So what I mean by that, if you look at the AI voices in the movies and other places, a lot of them are female voices. You already have a real male voice for AI. And somebody asked AI why female voices. Any guesses on the answer? It's that women is always right. So that adoption is also happens to kudos to all the women leaders here and the participants for being always right. Like even AI recognizes that. With that said, now the next thing is about, we all talked about the use cases now, and I'm pretty sure each and everyone can correlate in our industries what's happening. But with AI also comes the threats and the risks. There's a cost around it, right? And one of them biggest is, how can I trust this? Data privacy, data security, of course the regulations like Europe passed the AI regulation, right? I'm going to now go around, what are the different risks around and the threats around AI that your businesses are really worried about?
I'll tell you that, with AI comes in bad actors as well, and the complexity of what bad actors bring into the landscape. I truly think that not all organizations have truly adopted AI. I think they're still in the generative AI space. And in generative AI, a lot of it is dependent on the quality of data that you present to it. And the risks are bad prompting and legal issues that can arise from bad prompting and prompt injections that can lead to customers, vendors, your key stakeholders having all of the incorrect information, if I may say that. And for example, we did something with Workday where we put in some agents for our employees to interact with. And we spent a significant amount of time building the right prompts into the system. And if there were times when the responses that came from it was from bad prompts. So we had to weed all of that out. So every use case needs significant amount of due diligence just to protect yourself legally, reputationally, and financially, not just implementing it for the benefits of it.
That makes sense. Ajay?
Yeah, I mean, like any technology, adoption of anything will bring risk. Now, I'm a cybersecurity leader, so there's always a risk that I think about. But if I have to bubble it up at maybe a 10,000-foot level, I will say there are like 4 things that always bothers me when it comes to AI and the risk around it. Number one is the privacy and data, because data is pretty much the fuel for the AI, Gen AI or anything else. How do we secure and how do we make sure that the organizational data is not intermingling with the larger public large language models, LLMs? The second thing, I will say I'm always concerned about the bias that gets out of the AI analysis or outcomes. And how do we ensure those biases are not colluding or polluting the thinking and decision making as we go forward. Third thing I will add here is the lack of transparency in how AI is making a decision and why it is making the decision. Because at the end, when those decisions, those outcomes are there, everybody is probably going and trusting it blindly. But that's a problem. So people have to think about it. And last thing that I will add here, which I will say it has always bothered me, third parties. I mean, every company, small or large, they are, in today's day and age, are dependent on third parties. They are leveraging their services. I mean, I will just give an example, like in my organization, we have third parties who have been dealing, we have a relationship from last 15 years, 20 years, we have a contract with them. But at that time, AI did not existed, and those contracts are still there. But now, in this age of AI, everybody is jumping on the AI bandwagon. So now they are basically building AI within their product, and they're enabling those features. Those features are getting deployed without even your knowledge. And what it is doing, it is sucking up your data, going into some larger without your knowledge, and it is creating a risk. So we have to also think from that angle how we address that.
So I don't know how many of you are concerned that in the next 2, 3, 4 years, AI will replace some of our roles, but most likely there is a good chance that some of it will be true, which means that AI will be considered as an insider threat, what we call in security. Like we are trying to protect employees from doing something bad, adversarial, what we call in security, inside the network, intentionally or not intentionally. We need to consider as well what AI agent will do once you give them permission to all kind of sensitive environments. So that's one concern. I totally agree with you, Ajay, about the third-party supply chain. It can be, LLM training poisoning or some pieces of code put in LLM that you deploy within your environment. Then suddenly you got some open door into your network without knowing that. But really, I think that one of the biggest risks that we have today, it's not necessarily related to deployment and stuff like that. It's about companies not realizing that their employees are using third-party AI solutions like ChatGPT or DeepSeek, God forbid, to upload very sensitive information from the organization into those platforms. And it's all out there, okay? So there are ways, obviously, to secure that, to block that sources, but I think that's something that not a lot of people think about, but that's a big risk.
Now, that's great. I'll probably sum it up in a little different way as well. Now, these are very real risks. I started with a question, how many of you understand the term or know the term AI? Now I'm going to ask a little tricky question. AI versus Gen AI, or agentic AI versus AI agent. How many of you understand that? I see a few hands. Well, most of us use the term AI, but really most of us don't really understand the nuances. So we're using certain tools, technologies, without fully understanding what they can do or not do, and what form they can use. And that leads into what we call as the era of lack of visibility, being blind and being used. One takeaway I will have every one of you, whichever industry segment you come from, go and check in your enterprises and just ask, doesn't matter who you ask this question, what kind of AI and to what degree we are using AI? What all AI are we using? And find an answer there. You'll be surprised. Most organizations are struggling with that fundamental question. They don't even have an inventory of what AI where all is being used. Which now leads to the next topic, which is who owns the AI risk in your environment, in your businesses, and how are you really governing the risk?
I will say that everybody owns AI risk within an organization.
And do they agree?
It's just like cybersecurity. Our weakest link is our end user, right? And in that sense, but I will tell you what we're doing at US Foods. We have a cohort or team that's called the AI Catalysts. It's a group of leaders across various functions and value streams that are responsible for the adoption and the rollout of anything that smells, breathes, looks like AI. They are responsible for assessing the value of the business case and proceeding further with the adoption. They are responsible for the inventory and tracking of what systems it's touching, what data it's touching, etc. And they are responsible for the education of acceptable use of AI, both from a policies and a guidelines and a guardrail standpoint to the entire organization. So that is our framework right now. Not to mention that there are users who will still continue to bring their favorite toys into the network. And maybe Lalit, that is a topic that you should talk about today, about how your platform is addressing AI risk.
We will at some point.
Yeah.
Yeah, Lalit, it's a great question. And I mean, when you talk about the risk, who ultimately owns the risk? I mean, the ultimate owner of the risk in any organization is the senior executive leadership team, right? It's a CEO, CIO, CDO, CISO. But I think the fundamental question here is, how do we manage that? And to have an effective management of the AI-related risk, it is a teamwork. I mean, everyone, like from technical people to a business leaders, everybody need to be involved and have a clear understanding of what they are getting into and how they are basically trying to get the outcomes. I mean, at the end, it's all about having a very clear policy, guidelines, awareness on how AI will be used and deployed, and then how the outcomes will be managed and used from the business decision perspective.
Okay, so in terms of who's responsible for the risk, I completely agree with you, Ajay. You know, humble next to you and follow your guidance. But there are two maybe perspectives around it. So once there is a breach, God forbid, the organization really needs to understand who owns what, who is responsible for which role in that exercise, not exercise, but the incident. It can be very, very, I would say, stressful situation where everyone can run to different directions and everything needs to be structured and everyone needs to know what he's doing. So in that perspective, I think knowing who is responsible for what is highly important. So you need to be prepared for such incidents and such events. And in terms of the day-to-day, when there is no such, I would say, nervous situation for the organization, yes, we need to continuously, like Ajay say, make sure that the policies are updated, everyone knows what are the procedures, who is the champion for each area to take responsibility in terms of the supply chain, the code, the deployment, the different guardrails, updating things. There is different roles for different scenarios, but definitely that's just two aspects from my side.
So specifically, Rand, for you and Ajay, you come from very heavily regulated environments too. It's kind of like, not that CPG is not bad, but healthcare and critical infrastructure, right? Are you worried about any regulations specifically?
I mean, regulation related to AI or?
Yes, specifically AI.
Yes, I'm definitely worried because I mean, AI is basically where all the innovation is happening. You don't want to cripple the innovative juices that are flowing and how it can bring the betterment of the society and the business in general. So it has to be open, but it has to be done in a way where it is properly managed and controlled. I think that's the key. I mean, it's like anything else. I mean, with the goodness comes the bad aspect. But how do you manage that and ensure that you only getting the goodness out of it, but also effectively managing the downside of the badness is where the effective aspect comes.
And the reason why I asked that question, I was in London last October, and by February this year, when the European Union AI Act came in force, most of the organizations across the board, financial services, energy utilities, everyone was struggling because they had to meet or have to be compliant with that, but they had no clue what are they going to be compliant with. And of course, lucky for us, in the US we don't have a regulation, but I'm not sure if it's a lucky or a good thing or a bad thing, right? Because we have other regulations like HIPAA and PCI and other things, right, but not necessarily on the AI, minus in the Europe and other parts of the world that's really doing it. That being said, in terms of like the governance around the AI, right, and understanding of the AI, are there programs in place in your groups, in your organizations, that are training people, that are educating, creating awareness, or putting some kind of structure around how the business will leverage AI, and to a degree?
I think I kind of gave away the answer in the previous question, but the governance structure is the AI Catalyst program, and nobody can go and adopt something without the approval of this team. I think it's very important for every organization. I think Curtis was talking about it in the previous panel where he said, whether you like it or not, it is here. And I give this example of, you know, if you have ice cream in the refrigerator and you don't lock it down, your kids are going to go and pick it out anyway if it's accessible to them, right? AI is like that. If you make it accessible to your organization that anybody and everybody can adopt it and bring it in, then you're bringing the risk in. But to Ajay's point, it's important to have those guardrails and the guidance that they cannot do that. And there are, with the action comes the repercussion as well. So if everyone is educated, just like cyber security policies, I think we'll be in a better place in guarding our own organizations.
Just out of curiosity, by the way, since you're CPG and US Foods, does your AI-enabled refrigerator tell you when the food is about to expire?
It does.
It does. Okay.
We do have labeling on it, so it kind of.
I need to buy that.
Yeah. Do you eat expired food?
I don't eat. I have to throw a lot of wastage. All right. With that, I'm going to open up to the audience. I do have one last question, but any questions from the audience for this panel? I think there's a question over there. Okay.
So I recently wrote a white paper using ChatGPT, and it was pure garbage. I mean, it was general garbage, and I went and tried to fix it. I mean, it was well written. There was a lot of information in it, but it wasn't really insightful. But I published it anyway because we needed to get something out on the web, blah, blah, blah. So with that introduction, my question is for you, when you talk about bias, especially training bias in the algorithms. So there's this reinforcement loop happening, right? So people, like what I did, take ChatGPT, write something put it out there, and now it becomes part of the training data corpus, right? And then, so that one paper won't have an impact, but as we start doing it, I'm going to quit doing it, but as we start using ChatGPT or generative AI outputs, especially when it's agentic, and then publishing it, and it gets back out in there, how long do you think, or do you think it will happen where you start getting some of those biases that kind of run off, or things that just show up in the information that we kind of put in there, the biases, and then we don't even know what's happening?
Anybody?
First of all, it's a good question, and it's probably going to influence our daily life and business operation for the long run. But there are tools today, at least some tools that I have added that are capable of vetting and testing bias issues within LLMs and the output. Again, I'm more on the security side, but I can tell you that it's part of it in a way. But I can tell you that there are some tools that companies are using, and more than that, they're doing much more extended testing than that. But that's part of it. So, short answer.
Are there like known tools that are doing that, or like
Which
published
tools?
Tools, for detecting the bias, et cetera?
You're asking what are the tools?
Are there some known products out there that are doing that?
We'll get on it one-on-one, but one of them is sitting here.
So the short answer is yes. There are technologies now, just like how you test your applications, infrastructure, devices for the vulnerabilities. Consider this as vulnerabilities or the risks within AI, like bias, toxicity, misinterpretation. There are technologies now that actually do this level of testing. Of course, it's not 100% accurate, so you define the percentages because it's subjective, right? One thing I'll say, like to simplify this whole thesis of AI. Imagine AI did not create the data on which it's trained. AI was fed with the data and consumed the data and is interpolating all that. So we used to have the term garbage in, garbage out. I think when you're training your models and stuff, so if you're worried about the bias, the toxicity and stuff, somebody has to pay attention, and that's the reason why AI governance is very important criteria for you to kind of like look at the quality of data, what it's being trained on and everything, and better it is, and better is being kind of refined, lower is the chances of those kind of threats over there. Any other questions? Okay. Nobody was doing ChatGPT on question to ask in an AI forum? That would have been an easy one. Please.
I got just a real quick question. More than anything else, we're talking about AI and Gen AI, more on the side of ChatGPT, but the question really is going to be on using AI to improve the quality of the business. Now, in doing that, do you outsource the AI that you need to companies like Palantir, CrowdStrike, or do you create your own LLM and define it with your own ontology?
Go ahead, Ajay.
Yeah, I mean, it depends. It's a great question because if you want to leverage AI, it depends on what type of outcomes are you looking for. Now, you mentioned about the CrowdStrike and cybersecurity perspective. I think it probably benefits a lot if you are leveraging some of the insight which are being generated outside in the larger public LLM without having your data and then using that to drive the insight of your own organization. But when it comes to your own organizational insight that you want to drive, that's where you cannot put your data into a public LLM because then it is going to create a challenge, issues, privacy, and all sort of aspect. So now you have to create your own version of AI, which I will call it as SLM, small language model. And then you use the public AI or LLMs and use the APIs to keep learning so it becomes perfect. So, I mean, those are all different approaches, but can it provide like a perfect outcome? In some cases, maybe. In some cases, it may require even more and more training. That's where you have to look for the biases and keep eliminating the biases by improving the models and having a better quality of data as part of that.
Cool. So I know I have a couple minutes left now. So I want to wrap it up with one last question here. What advice would you give to the peers, to the community over here who are looking to scale AI within their businesses, but also want to not compromise the trust and the security. Any advice?
I'd say don't resist it. Adopt it because it only can bring value to the organization, but put in the effective guidance and guardrails around it.
Yeah, so last year, my organization embarked on this AI journey, and I will say it was rough in the beginning because we saw like how it was slowly getting wild west. So we had to very quickly come and put some structure and some controls there. So and I will share from those learning 3 things that comes to my mind. Number 1, prioritize the transparency. It is going to be very, very important because when you are developing your model, what data is coming, who's the owner of data, what is the authenticity of the data, that becomes a very important. And if we don't have a transparency, then any outcome from the AI, you can't trust. The second thing is embedding the ethical principle in your AI journey early on. Because you don't want people to be taking somebody else's intellectual property that may put your organization in harm. And now they are getting sued for something that, and then the last thing, having a very strong governance. I mean, Kala talked about the governance. Governance is going to be a key, and the governance cannot be driven out of the IT organization. Governance has to be a cross-functional, business-driven structure where you have people from legal, from business side. Of course, IT, CIO or CISO, they are probably going to be leading some of those aspects, that governance team, but it has to have a participation from all the other aspects.
So my answer is usually depends on the industry, of how regulated is that industry and the company that you're at. But when it's specifically in the industry that I'm at, the telco industry, which is highly regulated, in fact, it's part of our whole critical infrastructure, and it's going to be even more critical now with the 5G, which is not going to provide only communication, but also operation of many functionalities around us, like I mentioned, smart cities and manufacturing, etc. AI will open another attack vector, okay? So as a company that is providing such solutions for the telco, our approach is to build everything inside. We do not include any third party. We build everything, the LLMs, everything inside, and we using only the internal data of the organization. And as well, we can no longer, you spoke about governance, we can no longer rely on once in a annual or a quarterly audit or a risk assessment, and same goes also to ongoing monitoring capabilities, but everything needs to be continuous. Everything needs to be in real time and to provide visibility on the different gaps across the organization, including the AI, which is one of the tech vectors today, especially when we believe and we see how it grows. When ScriptKit is what we call the hackers with the low capabilities can suddenly in 2 years become can have a nation state capability, who knows? Okay, so we need to be ready, we need to be prepared, especially in such industries which are highly critical.
So I'll make it not to scare people, but it's very real thing happening right now, especially for the organizations that are in the regulated industries or working with like countries like Europe and all which have laws and regulations around it. There is a whole concept of the data breach or the data privacy. Now, given the AI being used, the infiltration into the data and how the organization is using it have been expanded. There are people and the law firms and others constantly watching, especially in the cyber insurance space and other places too. They're constantly watching for any violations of any of the data breaches using AI, through AI or without AI, both ways. And if you haven't, you should study some of those use cases. This threat is not theoretical, but real. Election time, deepfake, and other things, again, real threats. So things are happening for real. And with more and more adoption of AI, which is going to happen in day-to-day life, smart cars, or self-autonomous cars, smart cities, it's only going to infiltrate. And my advice, what I tell people is, balance your AI with real intelligence. And I will wrap it with a simple example. At one of those conferences again, There was a case study that was shared, which was kind of like, very encouraging, that they did this AI-based mechanism where they fed almost 2 million snapshots of different coffee leaves and stuff to come with a pattern which coffee leaves will produce the best coffee beans and stuff. So they did all permutation combinations, did experiment over and over again, really never could get to a real result. Then they brought 5 or 10 farmers from their belt. They picked up a sample of 20 leaves and said, these are the ones that you should be combining to get the results. And the results were outstanding. What they really tell you is why AI can enhance the power of data and everything else, that doesn't mean the real intelligence or experiences are going away, which is encouraging. That's where we should be. So the balance needs to be there. With that, I think we're done with the panel. We won't keep you up between happy hour and stuff. Hope you enjoy the conversation and listening to the examples, the case studies. And with that said, thank you, Kala, Ajay, Rand, for being here. Really appreciate it. A big round of applause for the panelists, please.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, that's a wrap. 2025 Techconnex, and hopefully we'll see you in 2026. We really appreciate you being here.